Imagine a world where presidents battle airwaves, secrets spill through stories, and your English transforms with every twist. Welcome to story-driven English. Here's your hook. What if the wildest tale you've ever heard wasn't just entertainment, but the key to unlocking your fluent future? Stick with us as we dive into epic sagas like Trump's takedown of NPR and PBS, packed with drama, laughs, and lessons to supercharge your English skills. Hit play, buckle up, and let's turn stories into your superpower. Subscribe now and let's get rolling. A tale of Trump, tax dollars, and telly. The NPR and PBS saga. Chapter 1. Trump's takedown. The NPR and PBS smackdown begins. It was a sunny afternoon in early April 2025, and I was sipping my coffee, scrolling through Truth Social, when I stumbled upon the latest gem from our fearless leader, Donald Trump. Republicans must defund and totally disassociate themselves from NPR and PBS, the radical left monsters that so badly hurt our country, he proclaimed in his signature all-caps glory. I chuckled to myself. Classic Trump, never one to mince words or lowercase letters. But as a proud Republican and a guy who's been waving the MAGA flag since 2016, I couldn't help but nod along. The man had a point, and I was ready to dive into this story of tax dollars, TV, and a little Trumpian tough love. Now, let's rewind a bit. NPR and PBS have been around forever, or at least since 1967 when Lyndon Johnson signed the Public Broadcasting Act, figuring America needed some highbrow radio and TV to balance out all the cowboy shows. Fair enough, I suppose. Back then, they were all about educating the masses, beaming out Sesame Street to teach kids their ABCs and all things considered to keep the grown-ups informed. I'll admit, Big Bird's got a certain charm, and I might have learned to count to 10 with the Count's spooky laugh in the background. But fast forward to today, and things have changed. Trump's been calling these outfits horrible and completely biased platforms for a while now, and as someone who trusts his gut, I'm inclined to agree. Picture this, it's late March 2025, and Trump's back in the White House, ready to shake things up. He's got Elon Musk by his side, the two of them plotting to trim the fat off the federal budget like it's a Thanksgiving turkey. Meanwhile, NPR and PBS are out there, soaking up taxpayer cash through the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, or CPB for short. Trump's not having it. I'd love to do that, he told reporters in the cabinet room, grinning like a kid who just found out recess got extended. It's very unfair. The kind of money that's being wasted, and it's a very biased view. I couldn't help but laugh. The guy's got a way of making fiscal responsibility sound like a personal vendetta, and I'm here for it. So, what's the beef? Well, Trump's been on this train for years. Back in his first term, he tried slashing CPB funding left and right, calling NPR a liberal disinformation machine on Truth Social in April 2024. No more funding for NPR, a total scam, he wrote. Not $1. I remember retweeting that one with a popcorn emoji, because the drama was just too good. He's not wrong, either. As a Republican, I've long suspected these stations lean so far left they're practically tipping over. I mean, when's the last time you heard a fair shake for Trump on All Things Considered? It's all climate this and equity that, with a side of sanctimony. Meanwhile, rural folks like my cousins in Nebraska are stuck with NPR as their only radio option, and they're not exactly hearing their values reflected back. Here's the funny part, though, Trump's timing is impeccable. His latest call to defund NPR and PBS dropped right before a House subcommittee hearing on March 26, 2025, where the bigwigs from both networks, Catherine Maher and Paula Kerger, had to face the music. The subcommittee's even named after Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, which is just peak 2025 vibes. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene was there, laying into them with zingers like, You all can hate us on your own dime. I'd have paid good money to see that showdown live. Trump's cheering from the sidelines, and I'm picturing him with a bucket of KFC, loving every minute of it. Now, let's talk dollars and cents, because the lefties love to cry foul about this stuff. NPR says only about 1% of its budget comes straight from Uncle Sam, with PBS clocking in at 16%. Most of their cash comes from corporate sponsors, member station dues, and those guilt trip pledge drives where they beg you for $5 while playing classical music on loop. But here's the kicker: those local stations? They get about 8 to 10% of their funding from the CPB, and in rural spots, it's more like life support. Cut that, and you're not just tweaking NPR's latte budget. You're pulling the plug on stations in places like North Dakota, where the nearest newsstand is a 3-hour drive. Trump knows this, but he's betting they can survive on their own. "We're well covered," he said, gesturing to the sea of media in the room. "Waste of money." I smirked. He's got a point, but I wouldn't mind keeping Big Bird around for nostalgia's sake. Of course, the NPR and PBS folks aren't taking this lying down. Maher and Kerger trotted out to Capitol Hill, defending their turf like it's Fort Knox. Kerger's all about the kids, saying PBS's educational stuff is a lifeline for small towns. Maher admitted they botched the Hunter Biden laptop story years back, which was a rare mea culpa. Still, they're clutching their pearls, warning that defunding would be incredibly damaging to the system. I get it, nobody likes losing their allowance, but maybe it's time they learn to hustle like the rest of us. Trump's not budging, and neither am I. If they're as vital as they claim, let the free market prove it. This isn't just Trump freelancing, either. He's got backup. Elon Musk's been tweeting "defund NPR" since 2023, and guys like Representative Ronnie Jackson are pushing bills to make it happen. Even the FCC's Brendan Carr is sniffing around, investigating if their sponsorships are too commercial. It's a full-on conservative pile-on, and I'm loving the teamwork. Back in the day, Reagan and Gingrich tried this too, but Congress always swooped in to save the day. This time, with a Republican-controlled House and Trump's momentum, it feels different. Could 2025 be the year we finally cut the cord? I'm not holding my breath, but I'm rooting for it. So, here we are, April 5, 2025, and the saga's still unfolding. Trump's out there, calling NPR and PBS radical left monsters, and I'm just a guy with a coffee mug, cheering him on. Sure, the other side's got their stats, saying 43% of Americans want to keep funding these stations, per Pew Research. But 24% agree with us, and I bet that number's growing. Trump's vision is clear: no more tax dollars propping up what he sees as one-sided noise. I say let's give it a shot. Worst case, NPR starts a podcast empire, and PBS turns Sesame Street into a Netflix hit. Best case, we save a few bucks and get some fairness back in the airwaves. Either way, I'm with Trump on this one, because if there's one thing he's taught us, it's that shaking things up is half the fun. Chapter 2, Dollars and Cents. Digging into Trump's funding fight. So there I was, still sipping my coffee on April 5, 2025, basking in the glow of Trump's latest Truth Social zinger about NPR and PBS. The man's got a knack for stirring the pot, and I'm all in for it. But then I started thinking, how much of our hard-earned cash are these radical left monsters really guzzling down? Trump's been hinting they're basically living off the federal teat, and as a loyal Republican who trusts his every move, I figured it was time to dig into the numbers. Spoiler alert, it's a wild ride, and I've got a front-row seat with a grin on my face. Let's break it down, because even a MAGA guy like me likes a good fact-check now and then, if only to dunk on the doubters later. Trump's been saying NPR and PBS are sucking up taxpayer dollars like it's their full-time job. Waste of money, he bellowed to the press last week, and I could practically hear the cheers from Mar-a-Lago. But here's the twist. NPR's only getting about 1% of its budget straight from Uncle Sam. Yep, you heard that right. 1 measly %. Most of their cash comes from member station fees and those big corporate sponsors who love slapping their logos on tote bags during pledge drives. PBS, meanwhile, is a bit thirstier, pulling in around 16% from federal funds via the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, or CPB. That's the outfit Congress hands about $500 million a year to, spreading it across 1,500 local stations like peanut butter on toast. Now, I'm no math whiz, but I grabbed my calculator just for kicks. That $500 million? It's a whopping 0.01% of the federal budget. Break it down per American, and we're talking $1.60 a year each. I spend more than that on a gas station hot dog. Take 9 PBS in St. Louis, for example. They say federal bucks make up 13% of their haul, while 86% comes from local folks in Missouri who apparently love their masterpiece reruns. Over in Kentucky, Louisville Public Media's getting about 5% from the CPB, and Rocky Mountain Public Media's at 10%. Point is, these local stations aren't exactly swimming in federal gold, but that little slice keeps their lights on, especially in places where the next news outlet's a donkey ride away. Here's where it gets fun. Trump's not wrong to poke at this, even if the numbers don't quite match his vibe. Sure, NPR's national office could probably survive on lattes and liberal tears if the feds cut them loose, but those rural stations? They'd feel the pinch. Imagine some farmer in Wyoming tuning in for his daily dose of Morning Edition, only to get static because the CPB's check bounced. Trump's betting they'll figure it out, though. We're well covered, he said last month, waving at the press corps like a game show host. Plenty of media out there. I chuckled into my mug. He's got a point. Between X, YouTube, and 1,000 podcasts, do we really need taxpayer cash keeping NPR's microphones humming? The NPR and PBS crowd, naturally, are clutching their NPR tote bags in horror. This funding is critical, they cry, pointing to how it fuels news and education in small towns. Fair enough, I suppose. That 10% or so from the CPB might not sound like much, but for a tiny station in nowhere, Nebraska, it's the difference between airing car talk reruns or dead air. Still, I'm with Trump on this one. If they're as essential as they claim, let's see them hustle. Maybe PBS can sell Big Bird NFTs, or NPR can launch a true crime podcast empire. The free market's a tough love teacher, and I say it's time for a lesson. Trump's not flying solo here, either. Elon Musk's been tweeting "Defund NPR" like it's his morning mantra, and the Doge crew in Congress is sharpening their budget axes. I can picture them now, sipping coffee and plotting how to save that $1.60 per American for something useful, like a border wall or a tax cut. Back in March, when NPR's Catherine Maher admitted they flubbed the Hunter Biden laptop story, I nearly spit out my drink. See, I thought, Trump's been right all along about the bias. That's the kind of ammo he loves, and I'm here for the fireworks. So yeah, Trump might have stretched the truth a tad when he implied NPR and PBS are federal funding junkies. The real story's more complicated, like a sitcom with too many characters. But does that change my tune? Not a bit. I'm still Team Trump, because even if the dollars are small, the principle's huge. Why should my tax money prop up anything he calls a horrible, biased platform? Cut him loose, I say, and let's see if they sink or swim. Worst case, I'll miss my occasional PBS nature documentary fix, but I've got Discovery Channel for that. Best case, Trump saves us a few bucks and proves a point. Either way, I'm along for the ride, coffee in hand, ready to cheer on the next chapter of this telly tale. Chapter 3. Timing is Everything. Trump's Political Power Play. By now, my coffee's gone cold, but I'm still glued to this NPR and PBS drama like it's the season finale of a reality show. It's April 5, 2025, and Trump's out there swinging, calling for a total defund of these radical left monsters. As a die-hard Republican who's been Team Trump since the golden escalator days, I'm eating it up. But this isn't just some off-the-cuff rant. Oh no, the man's playing chess while the rest of us are still figuring out checkers. The timing, the players, the political backdrop, it's all lining up like a perfect MAGA storm, and I've got a front-row seat with a smirk. Let's set the scene. Washington's a pressure cooker these days, with folks on both sides of the aisle eyeing the media like it's either a saint or a sinner. Trump's latest salvo hit just before a House subcommittee hearing on March 26, 2025, chaired by none other than Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's right, MTG herself, the firebrand from Georgia who's never met a fight she didn't like. The hearings tied to the Department of Government Efficiency DOGE, for short, cooked up by Trump and Elon Musk to shrink the government faster than a cheap t-shirt in the dryer. I'm picturing Trump leaning back in the Oval Office, grinning as NPR's Catherine Marr and PBS's Paula Kerger sweated out before Congress, trying to justify why they deserve my $1.60 a year. Timing's everything, and Trump's got it down to an art. Greene didn't hold back, either. She grilled them like a 4th of July barbecue, asking why taxpayers should foot the bill for what she calls left-wing propaganda. She's got a laundry list: Hunter Biden's laptop getting the silent treatment, COVID coverage that leaned harder left than a Prius in Portland. PBS is pushing some of the most extreme liberal views with our money, she thundered. I nearly clapped at my phone screen. Meanwhile, Elon's out on X, tweeting, "Cut NPR funding now," and calling PBS hyper-leftist. The guy's got a Tesla-sized megaphone, and he's not shy about using it. Between Trump, Greene, and Musk, it's like the Avengers of fiscal responsibility teamed up to take down Big Bird and his pals. This isn't just a one-off, either it's part of a bigger playbook. Ever heard of Project 2025? It's this slick roadmap from the Heritage Foundation, laying out a conservative dream list for Trump's second term. Guess what's on page 1? Yep, axing federal cash for public broadcasting. They're calling it a leaner, meaner government, and I'm nodding along because who doesn't love a good budget trim? Trump's defunding push, the DOGE hearing, and Project 2025 are all singing the same tune, and it's music to my Republican ears. It's not just about the money, it's about sending a message to outfits they see as ideologically off the rails. I can't help but laugh at the coordination here. Trump drops his Truth Social bombshell, Greene brings the heat in Congress, and Musk's out there rallying the X-troops. It's like they rehearsed it over burgers at Mar-a-Lago. And why not? The country's split down the middle, with half of us, 24% per Pew Research, thinking NPR and PBS don't deserve a dime. Trump's tapping into that, riding a wave of distrust in media that's been brewing since cable news became a shouting match. I'm all in. If he says these stations are a problem, I trust him. The guy's been calling out bias since day one, and he's yet to steer us wrong. Of course, the other side's howling about attacks on journalism and rural access. But I'm not buying the sob story. Trump's not saying shut them down. He's just saying let them stand on their own 2 feet. If NPR's as beloved as they claim, they'll find a way, maybe a Patreon for All Things Considered fans. PBS could turn Downton Abbey into a pay-per-view special. The point is, Trump's timing this perfectly, right when the political stars align and the DOGE crew's got the knives out. It's bold, it's brash, and it's got his signature all over it. So here I am, coffee long forgotten, rooting for the next act in this saga. Trump's got the stage, Greene's got the gavel, and Musk's got the memes. Together, they're pushing a vision where tax dollars don't prop up what they see as a liberal echo chamber. I say bring it on. Worst case, NPR pivots to a hipster podcast network, and PBS starts streaming on TikTok. Best case, we save some cash and score a win for fairness. Either way, I'm with Trump 100%, because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that he knows how to pick a fight worth watching. Chapter 4, Monsters in the Mic, Decoding Trump's Bias Blast. By now, I've swapped my cold coffee for a soda, but I'm still hooked on this NPR and PBS showdown. It's April 5, 2025, and Trump's got his megaphone cranked to 11, dubbing these outfits radical left monsters that are wrecking America. As a red-blooded Republican who'd follow Trump through a blizzard in flip-flops, I'm all ears. Why's he so fired up? What's got him and his crew slapping this label on Big Bird's home turf? Buckle up, because this chapter's got more spice than a barbecue cook-off, and I'm here to unpack it with a grin. Trump's not just tossing out catchy phrases for fun, though. Radical left monsters does have a nice ring to it. He's got a laundry list of gripes, and so do his posse. The big one. They're convinced NPR and PBS are basically liberal clubhouses where conservative voices go to get the silent treatment. Take Yuri Berliner, an ex-NPR big shot who dropped a bombshell essay a while back. He spilled the beans, saying the place is so stacked with left-leaning staff that it's like a "no conservatives allowed" sign is taped to the door. Open-mindedness is dead at NPR, he wrote, and I could almost hear the mic drop. Trump pounced on it, blasting out "liberal disinfo machine" on Truth Social like it was a victory lap. I chuckled. If a guy on the inside saying it, maybe there's something to this. Then there's the coverage beef. Marjorie Taylor Greene's been waving her pitchfork, ticked off about how NPR and PBS handled hot-button stuff like Hunter Biden's laptop and COVID-19. They dropped the ball, she fumed at that Doge hearing last month, and I'm nodding along because fair's fair. Where was the balanced take? But she really lit up over PBS featuring a drag queen on some kids' program. Predators and monsters, she roared, accusing them of using my tax dollars to shove extreme leftist views down our throats. I raised an eyebrow at that one Sesame Street with a side of sequins. Sounds like a plot twist I didn't sign up for. Other critics pile on, pointing to shows like PBS's Real Boy, about a transgender kid figuring things out. Woke agenda, they cry, and I'm starting to see why Trump's blood's boiling. Trump's not subtle about it, either. Horrible and completely biased platforms, he told reporters, smirking like he's just won a round of golf. I love the guy's gusto. He's been railing against this for years, and now he's got backup. Green's out there swinging, Musk's tweeting "defund" like it's his daily workout, and even Berliner's whistleblowing fits the narrative. I'm sold. If NPR's sidelining half the country and PBS is turning Elmo into a culture warrior, maybe monsters isn't too harsh. Trump's painting them as a threat to good old American values, and I'm waving the flag right alongside him. Of course, NPR and PBS aren't taking this lying down. Their bigwigs, Catherine Maher and Paula Kerger, are out there with the "we serve the public" defense, acting like they're the last bastion of truth in a chaotic world. Our mission is to inform and inspire, they say, touting their news and education goodies, especially for rural spots where the radio dial's pretty lonely. Kerger even tackled Green's drag queen rant head-on. That never happened in our kids' shows, she shot back, explaining it was some random New York station post that got yanked fast. I'll give her points for quick cleanup, but I'm still skeptical. They swear they're all about fairness, but when Trump's calling you out, I'm betting on his gut over their press releases any day. Here's the kicker. This isn't just about a drag queen cameo or a skipped Hunter Biden scoop. It's a full-on vibe check. Trump and his crew see NPR and PBS as megaphones for a worldview that doesn't jive with the heartland folks. I know folks who'd rather hear about jobs than gender journeys. Berliner's exposé only fuels the fire, and Green's outrage seals the deal. Are they monsters? Maybe that's Trump's flair for the dramatic, but I get it. If they're not reflecting all of America, why are we all paying for it? Trump's pushing to pull the plug, and I'm cheering him on because, let's face it, he's got a nose for sniffing out nonsense. So, soda in hand, I'm still riding this roller coaster. Trump's got his reasons: bias, bad coverage, and a dash of woke weirdness, and I'm buying what he's selling. NPR and PBS can cry misunderstood all they want, but when the boss says it's time to cut the cord, I'm grabbing the scissors. Worst case, they'll adapt. Maybe PBS can crowdfund a drag-free Cookie Monster spinoff. Best case, Trump scores another win for fairness and fiscal sense. Either way, I'm Team Trump, because if he's calling them monsters, I'm betting he's onto something big. Chapter 5, Trump's Media Makeover, A History of Hits. I've traded my soda for a bag of chips by now, still glued to this Trump versus the media epic on April 5, 2025. His latest call to defund NPR and PBS is lighting up my Republican soul, but it's not like he just woke up yesterday and decided to pick this fight. Oh no, Trump's been swinging at the media piñata since day one, and as a MAGA fan who thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread, I'm loving every minute of it. This isn't a one-off jab, it's a full-on heavyweight bout, and I've got the popcorn, chips, ready to recap his greatest hits. Let's hop in the time machine back to his first term. Trump didn't just whisper about cutting NPR and PBS funding, he roared it from the rooftops. Every budget he sent to Congress had the Corporation for Public Broadcasting's line items slashed like a bad haircut. Waste of money, he'd say, and I'd nod along, picturing all those tax dollars better spent on a shiny wall or a tax cut. Congress, bless their bipartisan hearts, kept slapping his hand away, with some Republicans joining the Dems to keep Big Bird's lights on. Didn't stop him, though. He'd just shrug, fire off a Truth Social blast like "No more NPR scam," and move on to the next round. I admired the hustle. Trump's nothing if not persistent, and I'm all about that fighting spirit. But NPR and PBS were just the warm-up act. Trump took his media makeover show on the road, and Voice of America VOA for short got a front-row seat. In 2020, he tapped Michael Pack, a guy with a knack for shaking things up, to run the U.S. Agency for Global Media, VOA's parent outfit. Pack stormed in like a bull in a china shop, firing top brass, freezing news budgets, and sniffing around for biased reporters. 7 months of chaos later, he'd turned VOA into a Trumpian experiment. The White House even pushed an executive order to dismantle the whole agency, furloughing staff and cutting funds to Radio Free Europe and Radio Free Asia. Why? They claimed VOA was radical propaganda, pointing to some story about transgender women nabbed by Border Patrol. I laughed into my chips. Trump saw that and said, "Not on my watch." Classic. He didn't stop there, either. Before the 2020 election, Trump was dropping hints about locking up journalists, hunting down their secret sources, and yanking broadcast licenses from the big networks. "Fake news," he'd bellow, and I'd cheer because, let's be real, he's been spot on about the media circus. He even sued outlets left and right: CNN, the New York Times, you name it, for defamation, racking up lawsuits like they were golf trophies. I'd see those headlines and think, go get him, champ. It wasn't just personal. It was a full-on mission to reshape the media landscape, and I'm waving the pom-poms because nobody does it like Trump. Fast forward to now, and this NPR PBS beef feels like the encore to a greatest hits album. He's been at this game for years, tweaking budgets, shaking up agencies, and throwing legal haymakers at anyone who crosses him. The guy's got a playbook. Spot a media outfit he thinks is out to get him, call it out, and swing hard. VOA got the overhaul, the networks got the lawsuits, and now NPR and PBS are back in the crosshairs. I'm grinning because it's not random, it's Trump being Trump, sticking to his guns and fighting for what he believes. Sure, he didn't always win those early rounds, but he's back in the White House now, and I'm betting this time's different. The naysayers probably sipping lattes while listening to NPR whine that he's attacking free speech or whatever. I roll my eyes. Trump's not banning them, he's just saying, pay your own way. If he thought VOA was fixable with a new boss, maybe he figures NPR and PBS can survive without my $1.60 a year. I'm with him 100%. Those past efforts, they were dress rehearsals. Now, with Musk in his corner and a Republican House cheering him on, he's got the muscle to make it stick. Worst case, NPR pivots to a podcast empire, and PBS turns Elmo into a streaming star. Best case, Trump notches another win, proving he's the maestro of media reform. Either way, I'm munching my chips, rooting for the guy who's been rewriting the rules since 2016. Chapter 6. GOP on board, the party rallies for Trump's cut. I've ditched the chips for a glass of sweet tea now, still riding the wave of this Trump-led media showdown on April 5, 2025. His call to defund NPR and PBS isn't just a solo act, it's got the whole Republican Party singing backup like a well-rehearsed choir. As a proud MAGA supporter who thinks Trump's the bee's knees, I'm thrilled to see my team rallying behind him. This isn't some new tune either. It's a classic GOP hit remixed for 2025, and I'm tapping my foot to the beat with a big old grin. The party's been buzzing since Trump dropped his radical left monsters bombshell. Marjorie Taylor Greene's leading the charge, waving her gavel like a baton at that Doge hearing last month. She hauled NPR and PBS execs in front of Congress, grilling them like steaks on why they deserve a dime of my tax money. Biased and extreme, she snapped, still fuming about PBS's alleged drag queen fiasco and NPR's spotty coverage of juicy topics like Hunter Biden. I'm picturing her in a superhero cape labeled Taxpayer Defender, and I'm cheering from the sidelines. She's not alone. Either Senator John Kennedy's piped up with a Louisiana drawl, backing the defunding push, and plenty of other GOP lawmakers are nodding along. It's a full-on Republican love fest, and I'm here for it. This isn't just a few loudmouths. Mind you, it's party gospel now. Take Project 2025, that shiny conservative playbook from the Heritage Foundation. It's practically got defund NPR and PBS tattooed on its cover, right next to Shrink the Government in bold letters. Trump's been humming this tune since his first term, slashing CPB budgets left and right, only to get blocked by a bipartisan Congress that couldn't let go of Sesame Street. Back then, some Republicans were soft on it, but not this time. With Trump's base roaring and the House in GOP hands, the vibe shifted. I'm sipping my tea thinking, finally, we're all on the same page. The party's got its reasons, and I'm nodding like a bobblehead. They've been griping about liberal bias in public media since forever. Too much climate talk, not enough tax cut cheerleading. Why are we paying for this? They ask, and I'm right there with them. Trump's lit the match, and the GOP's fanning the flames, arguing it's about fiscal responsibility and fairness. Greene's out there calling PBS extremist, Kennedy's muttering about waste, and the base folks like me are chanting, "Cut it," from our living rooms. Even Elon Musk's tossing in his 2 cents on X, and when the party's this united, you know Trump struck gold. Sure, not every Republican's always been on board historically. Way back when George W. Bush tried trimming the CPB fat, but Congress full of NPR tote bag fans slapped his wrist every year. Some GOPers like the idea of public radio for rural folks, And I get it. My cousins in Kansas wouldn't mind keeping their local station. But that was then. Now, with Trump at the helm and the party fired up, those holdouts are quieter than a mouse in a cat convention. NPR and PBS execs are sweating, and I'm loving the pressure. Trump's got the momentum, and the GOP's marching in lockstep. So here I am, tea in hand, watching my party rally behind the boss. Green's throwing punches, Project 2025's laying the groundwork, and Trump's conducting the whole orchestra. It's a beautiful sight. Republicans united, ready to yank the plug on what they see as a liberal cash grab. Worst case, a few stations scramble, and PBS pivots to a streaming hustle. Best case, Trump and the GOP score a win for taxpayers and stick it to the bias they've been battling forever. Either way, I'm all in, because when Trump leads and the party follows, it's a show worth watching. Pass the popcorn or, more tea, because this saga's just heating up. Chapter 7. What's at stake? The fallout of Trump's funding acts. I'm cradling my sweet tea like it's a lifeline now, still hooked on this Trump-driven NPR and PBS drama as of April 5, 2025. The man's got the Republican Party behind him, swinging for the fences with his defunding call, and I'm all in because Trump's my guy. But let's flip the script for a sec. What happens if he gets his way and yanks the federal cash from these radical left monsters? The other side's wailing about doom and gloom, so I figured I'd take a peek, chips and dip style, and see what's at stake. Spoiler, it's a mixed bag, but I'm still grinning because Trump's got this. First off, the numbers. NPR sipping just 1% of its budget from the feds, and PBS is at 16% via the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Peanuts, right? Not so fast. For the big national outfits, it's a drop in the bucket. They've got corporate sponsors and pledge drives to keep the lights on. But zoom out to those little rural stations, and it's a different story. In places like Wyoming or deep Kansas, that CPB cash can be half their budget. Louisville Public Media's already sweating, saying their 5% slice keeps local news and music alive. Lose it, and they're predicting a meltdown. Fewer reporters, less banjo on the airwaves. I sip my tea and shrug. Sounds rough, but can't they just hustle a bit harder? Then there's the ripple effect. Those small-town stations aren't just playing NPR's Morning Edition on loop, they're lifelines. Think tornado warnings, flood alerts, that kind of thing. The 1967 Public Broadcasting Act set them up to educate and inform, and in rural spots where the next newsstand's a day's drive, they're it. Cut the feds out, and some might go dark, leaving folks without their emergency updates or those teacher resources PBS loves to tout. I picture my cousin in Nebraska, tuning in for storm alerts, only to get static. Okay, that's a bummer, but I'm still with Trump. Maybe they can figure out a plan B. The programming's another worry, or so they say. Without Uncle Sam's bucks, local stations might ditch the cultural stuff. Think symphony broadcasts or those artsy PBS docs I secretly enjoy. Newsrooms could shrink, too, especially in places where NPR's the only game in town for local scoops. Bigger picture, it might nick their ability to buy those national hits. Bye-bye, Downton Abbey reruns? And don't get me started on the tech side. Satellites, emergency systems, all that jazz could take a hit if the cash dries up. Louisville's moaning they'd feel it immediately and significantly, and I'm like, okay, drama queens, adapt already. Here's where I lean back and smirk, though. Trump's not saying shut him down, he's saying stand on your own. Sure, rural stations might scramble, and some might not make it. But isn't that the free market at work? I'm picturing NPR launching a Kickstarter for All Things Considered, or PBS turning Sesame Street into a subscription gig. If they're as vital as they claim, they'll survive. My Republican heart says, tough love, folks. Trump's betting they can, and I trust his gut over their sob stories any day. Plus, with Musk and the GOP cheering him on, he's got the juice to push this through. So yeah, cutting the cord could shake things up, fewer fiddles on the radio, some dark towers in the boonies, maybe a slimmer PBS lineup. The naysayers are clutching their tote bags, crying about lost culture and rural news deserts. I get it, sort of my Kansas kin might miss their updates. But I'm still Team Trump, sipping my tea with a chuckle. Worst case, a few stations fold, and NPR pivots to podcasts. Best case, they prove they don't need my $1.60 a year, and Trump scores a win for fiscal sanity. Either way, I'm riding this train with him, because if he says it's time to cut loose, I'm betting on his playbook. Now, where'd I put those chips? Chapter 8, Tote Bags and Tears, NPR and PBS Fight Back. I'm still nursing my sweet tea on April 5, 2025, fully invested in this Trump versus NPR and PBS showdown. The man's got the GOP fired up, and I'm waving the MAGA flag high, but now it's time to hear from the other side. NPR's Catherine Marr and PBS's Paula Kerger aren't exactly rolling over. They've come out swinging, defending their turf like it's the last slice of pie at a potluck. As a Trump loyalist who thinks he's the cat's pajamas, I'm skeptical, but I'll give him a listen with a smirk and a sip, because fair's fair. These two took the stage at that Doge hearing last month, facing down Marjorie Taylor Greene and her crew with all the gusto of a PBS pledge drive. Marr kicked things off, owning up to NPR's fumble on the Hunter Biden laptop saga. "We messed up," she admitted, saying they should have jumped on it sooner and harder. "I nearly choked on my tea finally. Some accountability." But then she got all mushy, regretting those old tweets where she called Trump a fascist and a racist sociopath. I grinned. "Lady, you can't unring that bell, but nice try." She swore NPR's working to sprinkle some conservative flavor into their mix, promising to serve all Americans, not just the latte crowd. I'll believe it when I hear Rush Limbaugh reincarnated on All Things Considered. Kerger, meanwhile, came in hot with the PBS pride. "Nothing's more American than us," she declared, waving the flag of kids' shows and top-notch reporting. She brushed off Green's drag queen drama, saying it was a fluke on some New York station's website, not a PBS broadcast. "Never aired," she insisted, and I'll give her a nod for the quick cleanup. Both of them leaned hard into the "we're essential" pitch: news, education, storm warnings. You name it, especially for rural folks where NPR and PBS are the only game in town. Marr got grim, warning that yanking federal cash would cripple local stations, especially with newsrooms shutting down faster than you can say budget cuts. Kerger nodded along, painting a picture of PBS as the last bastion of wholesome TV. I rolled my eyes a bit, lay it on thick. Why don't ya? Here's their big sob story, those federal dollars. Sure, NPR's only sipping 1% and PBS 16% nationally, but out in the boonies, it's a lifeline. Marr said some rural stations lean on it for half their budget, lose that, and it's lights out. No more tornado alerts, no more teacher tools, maybe even no more Cookie Monster. They're tugging at heartstrings, claiming they're the glue holding small-town America together. I sip my tea and think, okay, that's a decent pitch, but I'm still Team Trump. He's not buying it, and neither am I, not fully, anyway. If they're so vital, why not find a way to stand on their own 2 feet? Marr's got stats to back her up. 2 local news is tanking, with over 2 outlets closing weekly. She's saying NPR's the safety net, and without that CPB cash, rural listeners are toast. Kerger's in the same boat, touting PBS's legacy like it's apple pie and baseball rolled into one. They're begging Congress to keep the spigot open, warning of a cultural apocalypse if Trump gets his way. I chuckle into my glass. These gals are good, real good, but I'm not swayed. Trump's been calling their bluff since 2016, and I trust his nose for nonsense over their teary-eyed pleas. So, where's that leave us? Maher and Kerger are out there, hats in hand, swearing they're America's unsung heroes. They've got their mea culpas and their mission statements, but I'm still grinning because Trump's got the upper hand. Worst case, they're right, and some rural stations flicker out tough, but survivable. Best case, they adapt, maybe sling some NPR podcasts or PBS streaming subs, and Trump proves they don't need my $1.60 a year. Either way, I'm sticking with the boss. He says they're biased relics, and I'm betting he's right. Maher can apologize all she wants, and Kerger can wave the PBS flag, but when Trump's leading the charge, I'm riding shotgun, tea and all. Chapter 9, Red versus Blue. The Great Public Media Divide. I'm still sipping my sweet tea on April 5, 2025, knee-deep in this Trump-fueled NPR and PBS showdown, and loving every minute of it. As a die-hard Republican who thinks Trump's the greatest thing since indoor plumbing, I'm all in for his defunding crusade. But not everyone's on the same page, shocker, right? The country's split like a log at a wood-chopping contest, and I figured it's time to peek across the aisle, tea in hand, and see how the other half's sizing up this fight. Spoiler, it's a party line brawl, and I'm grinning because Trump's still my champ. Let's start with the lay of the land. Trump's out there, fists up, calling NPR and PBS radical left monsters, and pushing to cut their federal lifeline. The GOP's right behind him, cheering like it's a tailgate party. We're all about fiscal responsibility and sniffing out bias. Why should my tax bucks prop up what we see as liberal megaphones? But then you've got the Democrats, clutching their NPR tote bags and singing a different tune. They're all about keeping the cash flowing, waxing poetic about news, education, and rural lifelines. It's like we're watching two different movies. Me and Trump are in the action flick, while they're stuck in some feel-good drama. I sip my tea and chuckle. Typical. The Pew Research folks dropped some numbers in March 2025, and it's a real eye-opener. Overall, 43% of Americans say keep funding NPR and PBS, while only 24% my crew say pull the plug. The rest, 33%, are just shrugging like they're too busy with Netflix to care. But dig into the party split, and it's a whole new ballgame. Among Republicans and GOP leaners like me, 44% want the funding axed, and only 19% are soft on it. Flip to the Democrats and their buddies, 69% say keep it, and a measly 5% agree with us. I'm picturing a bar graph that looks like a tug-of-war, and I'm rooting for Team Red to yank harder. Trump's got the base fired up, and I'm proud to be in that 44%. Trust's a big piece of this puzzle, too. Pew says 47% of Democrats trust NPR for news, while only 12% of us Republicans do. I'm in that 88% giving it the side eye. PBS fares a bit better, 59% of Dems trust it, 23% of us, but I'm still skeptical. To me, it's all part of why Trump's right. If half the country doesn't buy what they're selling, why are we all paying for it? The Dems see these stations as saints, beaming truth to the heartland. I see them as biased relics, and Trump's the guy with the guts to say it out loud. I sip again, thinking, man, this divide's deeper than a Texas oil well. It's not just about the bucks, either. It's a vibe thing. Republicans like me and Trump figure the government's got no business bankrolling media, especially when we smell a lefty slant. Democrats counter that it's a public good, like roads or schools, and rural folks need it. I get their point. My Kansas cousins might miss their storm updates, but I'm still with Trump. Let the free market sort it out. If NPR's worth its salt, it'll find a way, and PBS can stream Elmo for a fee. The Pew stats show I'm in the minority nationally, but among my GOP tribe, I'm right at home, and that's what counts. So here I am, tea glass sweating, watching this partisan showdown play out. Trump's leading the charge, and I'm his biggest fan, even if 43% of America's against us. The Dems can clutch their pearls and trust stats all they want me, and my 44% of Republicans are riding with the boss. Worst case, NPR and PBS limp along without federal cash, and the Dems cry into their lattes. Best case, Trump wins, we save some dough, and the airwaves get a fairer shake. Either way, I'm sticking with my guy, because when it's us versus them, I know whose side I'm on. Time for a refill, this saga's too good to miss. Chapter 10, Trump's Endgame, a root beer toast to the future. I've swapped my sweet tea for a celebratory root beer on this fine April 5, 2025, toasting the end of our wild ride through Trump's NPR and PBS takedown. As a Republican who'd follow Trump to the moon and back, I've loved every twist of this tale. His latest call to defund these radical left monsters isn't just a headline, it's the grand finale of a long-running brawl over what public media's worth. Sure, he might have fudged the numbers a bit on how much they lean on federal cash, but I'm grinning because the man's got vision, and I'm all in for the shake-up. Let's wrap this up with a bow. Trump's push isn't some lone wolf howl, it's a megaphone blast in a political storm where conservatives like me are itching to trim the fat off anything smelling like liberal bias. The GOP's got his back, cheering like it's game day, and I'm right there with them. Cutting that federal lifeline 1% for NPR, 16% for PBS nationally might not tank the big shots, but those rural stations? Oof, they're sweating. Some lean on it for half their budget, and without it, we're talking fewer fiddles, no storm alerts, maybe even shuttered doors. NPR and PBS swear it's their lifeline for news, education, and keeping small towns in the loop. I sip my root beer and shrug tough break, but Trump's betting they can swim without floaties, and I'm on his team. The other side's got their pitch, too. Maher and Kerger are out there, waving the flag of public good, warning of a media wasteland if the cash dries up. Rural folks might lose their only news fix, and PBS's kid shows could take a hit. Fair point, my Nebraska cousins might miss their tornado updates, but I'm still chuckling because Trump's not fazed. He's got the party fired up, with Green, Kennedy, and Project 2025 singing his tune. Sure, Pew says 43% of Americans want to keep funding flowing, and only 24% back us, but among Republicans, 44% are with me and Trump. That's my tribe, and I'm proud to be in the fight. What's next? It's a coin toss, and I'm loving the suspense. Congress is a circus right now, and whether NPR and PBS keep their federal allowance depends on who's got the louder megaphone. The Dems are clutching their pearls, touting 69% of their crew wanting to save the day, but Trump's got momentum, a GOP house, and Musk tweeting defund, like it's his morning coffee. The pressures on cut spending, zap bias, win the day. NPR and PBS might squeak by if the softies in Congress cave, but I'm betting on Trump's playbook. He's been at this since 2016, and with the wind at his back, this could be the year he lands the knockout. So here I am, root beer fizzing, tipping my hat to this saga's end. Trump's calls a big swing, maybe it'll dent rural airwaves, maybe it'll force a leaner media scene. Worst case, NPR pivots to podcasts, PBS streams Elmo for $1, and some stations fade out. Best case, Trump proves they don't need my $1.60 a year, saves us cash, and sticks it to the bias I've been griping about forever. Either way, I'm with him, because when Trump's leading, I'm following, root beer and all. The future's murky, but one thing's clear. This fight's reshaping the airwaves, and I wouldn't miss it for the world. Here's to the boss, may his next battle be just as fun. And that's a wrap on our wild ride through Trump's telly takedown. From root beer to Republican cheers, we've unpacked it all: politics, media, and a dash of MAGA magic. Did Trump's fight get your gears turning? Love it or hate it, we want to hear from you. Drop a like if you're Team Trump, or even if you're not, share this story with your friends to keep the convo buzzing. and leave a comment below. Should NPR and PBS fend for themselves, or keep the cash flowing? Your English might just shine brighter with every word you type. Don't stop here. Hit that subscribe button for story-driven English and ring the bell so you never miss a tale. We're all about leveling up your English with stories that stick, one epic saga at a time. Thanks for watching, you awesome story lovers. See you in the next one.